The issues affecting you. Revealed, explained, discussed. Now on WGAL 8 in Focus.
Hello, I'm Susan Shapiro. The Susquehanna Valley is continuing to try to come to grips with the deadly shooting Saturday, February 22nd at UPMC Memorial Hospital in York County. A police officer was killed, 5 others were wounded, and the shooter was killed. The York County District Attorney says Diogenes Archangel Ortiz walked into the ICU of the hospital just before 10:30 Saturday morning. DA Tim Barker says Archangel Ortiz had a semi-automatic handgun and a bag of zip ties and tied a nurse while holding other staff members hostage. Investigators say Archangel Ortiz shot 3 people but did not give a motive. When police got there, they say he was holding a staff member at gunpoint. DA Barker says officers had no choice but to shoot. The coroner's report says both Archangel Ortiz and Officer Andrew Duarte were shot and killed.
It is absolutely clear and beyond any and all doubt that the officers were justified in taking their action and using deadly force. Quite frankly, they needed to use deadly force because by doing so, they potentially saved even more lives, even as they lost one of their own.
In addition to the death of Officer Duarte, 5 others, including a Northern York County Regional Police officer and a Springersbury Township officer and 3 hospital staff members, were shot and wounded. 30-year-old Officer Duarte is being remembered as a hardworking, disciplined, loving man. After working in Denver, Colorado as a police officer, he moved back to Pennsylvania to be closer to his mother. Nancy Duarte Matarese says her son was a warrior at heart, and she believes his purpose was used in a mighty way to save others.
No one should have to do this. No one should have to do this. It's an unimaginable pain. We were very close, and there is a hole that will never be filled.
She says they celebrated Duarte's 30th birthday just days before the shooting. Tonight on WGAL 8 in Focus, we'll take a look at what's being done to help the healthcare workers impacted by the shooting, and we'll talk with a group advocating for more hospital security. We'll also hear from a trauma consultant to help the community deal with this trauma as we try to make sense of all of this. Stay with us.
This is WGAL 8 in Focus. Coverage you can count on.
National Nurses United, the largest union and professional association of registered nurses, says nurses across the nation continue to experience extremely high rates of workplace violence. In 2023, it found 8 in 10 nurses have experienced at least one type of workplace violence within the past year. And joining us now is Kate Denny, who's a paramedic with Crozier Chester Medical Center in Delaware County, and she is on the statewide executive board of the Pennsylvania Association of Staff Nurses and Allied Professionals, or PASNAP, which represents more than 11,000 frontline nurses and healthcare professionals across the state. Thanks for joining us, Kate.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
What has been your experience in terms of violence on the job?
Well, I've certainly had my fair share of violence, dealing with patients that are going from mental health issues, the uncertainty. It leaves us as EMS providers responding to emergencies where emotions can run high. We encounter aggressive individuals, and it's becoming increasingly common.
That's got to be pretty scary.
It is. The violence against providers as well as nurses can go anything from verbal, physical assault, and even as threats with weapons.
What was your reaction to hearing about the incident at UPMC Memorial?
I was very saddened and troubled by the recent acts of the violence at UPMC. The tragic loss of Andrew Duarte, the injuries sustained by medical staff and first responders, and the trauma experienced by everyone involved are just stark reminders of the dangers we face when serving our communities.
What is your organization doing to try to prevent this kind of thing or combat it?
Well, it's a never fighting battle. To address it, we must prioritize workplace safety. We could do that through stronger policies and training, implementing zero tolerance policies for violence, training personnel on de-escalation techniques, and possibly providing self-defense training. Reporting support systems. We want to encourage the reporting of incidents without the fear of retaliation and ensure we have access to mental health support and counseling. Legislative protections. We want to advocate for stronger legal protections, harsher penalties for those who assault providers, and ensure that, healthcare professionals are included in workplace violence prevention laws. And then just overall improve safety measures. We want to make sure we enhance communication with law enforcement by providing, personal protective equipment, possibly exploring the use of body cameras or even, panic buttons in high-risk situations.
So you're talking about EMS or even nurses wearing body cameras?
We all work together for one same goal, and that's patient health. So regardless of me being a pre-hospital provider and the nurses inside the hospital, it affects us both.
You talked about retaliation. Who would retaliate against you?
Family members of those that are pushing the violence against us. Just in general, it could be staff from the hospital. We're not taking seriously when it comes to threats and violence in the workplace.
Do you think hospitals, your hospital and other hospitals, are doing enough to provide you with security?
That's a loaded question. No, not the current hospital system that I work for. We could have stronger security in place. I think when it comes down to the cost of providing security services in the hospital has taken a less than, interest in the hospital. Providing protective equipment to myself as an EMS provider. We work in very dangerous cities where there's high violence. We are not provided with the appropriate protection to ensure our safety as providers.
I guess you never know when you walk into a situation or you go to a home or wherever else, what you're going to encounter.
That is correct. From the time dispatch gives us, what the call is, we have to start painting that picture. And quite often when we get on scene, that picture can be the complete opposite of the details that we were provided before getting there.
What kind of trauma can you experience from that? How does that impact you and your emotional well-being?
Well, I can't speak from personal basis, but I have coworkers who have most recently been attacked by patients suffering mental health crises en route to the hospital. Not only is the attack bearing on mental health, but these particular providers went home and had to relive the incident, and their families suffered as a result because they were having hardships. They were having flashbacks of the situations. In some case, we've had people almost lose their lives and get severely hurt by violent patients.
Wow. Well, Kate, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We reached out several times to the hospital system, Crozier Chester Medical Center, where Kate Denny works, for a response to her statements, but we did not hear back. Coming up on WGAL 8 in Focus, we'll talk with a group that's helping people at hospitals affected by the shooting.
This is WGAL 8 in Focus, coverage you can count on.
I couldn't imagine the level of trauma and what they're dealing with, the people who were front and center, the ones that were zip tied, the ones who were shot, the ones who I witnessed up close. I stayed in the room. I didn't want to see anything.
That's Betsy Small, a York County woman who was visiting her mother at UPMC Memorial when the shooting occurred. She brought up the doctors, nurses, and other staff members who were traumatized by this incident. A group, Rekindled Nurse, helps nurses do well in their profession, but but also offers crisis support, and it is supporting staff members affected by the shooting. Joining us now are Courtney Kindrew, who's the founder and president of Rekindled Nurse, and Mindy Byler, the group's event and community relations coordinator. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
What was your reaction when you heard what had happened at UPMC Memorial? Courtney?
Just devastated, heartbroken. As a nurse myself, those are things that we should never feel that we need to be fearful of, and that is now added to the pressure and the trauma that we experience as nurses on the day-to-day. I felt for my colleagues at UPMC so deeply, and I felt so moved to action right away.
What kind of action when you say move to action?
Yes. So Rekindled Nurse is the organization that is, it's a nonprofit that is wildly passionate about nurses. And so we support nurses through many avenues, and one of those ways being crisis support. So what that looks like is we will bring in meal deliveries for the staff. We provide gifts of gratitude and support, bringing in the community to help us with that as well. And just offering peer support, because no one knows nurses like nurses know nurses. So being us able to go into these facilities to just be there for them and to offer a lending hand, an ear, a shoulder to cry on, just to be present with them while they are processing is a big thing that we're really passionate about.
Mindy, how do you think that kind of thing can help?
Yeah. Being part of the nursing community at large, being part of healthcare, an event like this just goes through you. I think all of us are imagining, what if this was my unit? What if this was me?
Yeah.
What if this could have happened to me? These are people who we might have connections with through our employment, through nursing school, through just our stories. These are people's lives, and facilitating conversation with people, everybody kind of reeling from an event like this. It's really important to just have conversations, to offer the mental health resources, kind of bring to light things that are available, resources, support that already exists. Any event like this, of course, we wish would never, ever happen. But in a way, it does bring to light some things that, there are resources, there are things that exist to serve you when you're in this dark place. And right now, we're really just focusing on getting those resources in people's hands so that they know you're not alone. You're not the only one feeling this way. You're not the only one angry, scared, fearful. You're not the only one. You're not alone.
And how much does it raise your level of anxiety and even fear?
I think it's safe to say that we all, again, are just imagining that this could have been us. You hear about things happening in the news all the time, but when it's so close to home like this, when there are, there's people that that were there, there's always some sort of connection when it's so close. And, it's impossible not to have that. What if this is me? What if this is me? What if this happens next time in my hospital? Hopefully there never is a next time. But the reality is this happened, and it was a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah, it's a reminder it can happen anywhere. And Courtney, you already mentioned nurses are in a very stressful job to begin with, along with a number of other healthcare professionals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot of heightened emotion in the hospital, whether you're in critical care or whatever area of an acute care setting like that. There's a lot of emotions for family members, for our patients. And I think it's important to remember that the healthcare workers that are there caring for you, for your family members, are human too. We're not superheroes. Mm-hmm. We have feelings and we're not unbreakable. So that's a big thing that we at Rekindled Nurse, some other local and more remote nonprofits, and just some connections that we have in the healthcare and nursing community really focus on. We're humans first. This is the profession that we've chosen, and for large majority of us, this is really like a heart passion for us too. We want to be there caring for people. Really, that's the essence of who we are. We care for people, but we're people first too.
Courtney, do you think maybe this has opened up some people's eyes about giving support, even from healthcare systems, from patients, from the public in general?
I think it does. I think people love to help, and I think that's something that we've been recognizing so beautifully throughout our community. We put out some of the initiatives of the things that we're doing as an organization to care for the UPMC staff and the nurses and the staff that were there, not only there directly affected, but also indirectly, because we're a family. And Mindy said it so beautifully, like nurses and healthcare workers really do have a beautiful link together. So I think it really does bring in so many people that are they sit at home and they have such big hearts and they're just like, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. And that's what we're here for. And I think that we've been noticing that firsthand of just the collective community support to care for these staff members during this horrible time. And one of the things that we're doing is we're offering completely complimentary debriefing sessions. So there's one-on-one debriefing sessions as well as group ones that are happening. And also in the works, we are working on a workshop with a trauma therapist that staff, nurses, whether you were directly affected or indirectly, we're going to be able to process together. We're going to work through tools and education and validation. And those things are so, so important for times like this.
Just quickly, what is a debriefing session?
So debriefing is you would just set it up with whether it's a nurse or a lot of nurses are coming to us right now, and we will just talk with them. We give them space. We hold their heart well. If they are wanting advice, we will offer support and care and advice in that aspect. But most of the time, they are just coming to share, and they are just coming to be in a very safe space, a very psychologically safe space. And so we are doing that with our friends debriefing the front lines. So they're the ones that we've partnered with, and they're the ones that are doing a majority of these debriefing sessions with staff and really allowing them to just have space to be heard and held safely.
All right, sometimes just an ear to listen.
Our nurses love our research, and there's a lot of research backing for debriefing, whether that's one-on-one, whether that's peer support, which peer groups is one of the things that Rekindle Nurse offers too. Debriefing the Front Lines does a lot of one-to-one sessions, which we're partnered with them to offer complimentary sessions to anybody looking for that right now. But there's a lot of research backing the brain, like neuropathway processing that happens with debriefing sessions, and helping you be kind of this self-awareness of where you are and what's happening, and being very honest with that, and taking that and being able to heal and move forward.
Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up on WGAL 8 in Focus, the shooting has brought up a lot of different feelings and questions. We'll speak with a trauma consultant about it.
This is WGAL 8 in Focus. Coverage you can count on.
Hospitals, schools, and other public places are supposed to be safe spaces, but an incident like this has many people questioning that. Joining us now is Dr. Lark Eshelman, who's a trauma consultant. Thanks so much for being here.
Happy to be with you, Susan.
Lark, that can be a real fear for people now after something like this happening, can it?
You know, hospitals can be one of two things for people, I think. One is a place of healing, and the other is something that's frightening. I don't think there are too many people who are excited when they have to go to the hospital anyway, but now there's that added layer of fear that something bad might happen when they go that doesn't have anything to do with why they're there. And that adds a layer of fear, and that's not a great thing.
And certainly this has got to be traumatizing for all of the staff who were in that hospital at the time. How do they get over something like this?
It's a very difficult thing. And having worked in a hospital at one point, I know that hospital people are very collegial. They're people who support each other. But we maybe as a community need to help support them even more. I just wrote to the ICU hospital at UPMC yesterday to say thank you for what you're doing. We need to reassure them that we are there for them, that we appreciate them. They stick together, and hopefully they're supporting each other too.
Certainly, something like this can cause PTSD for a lot of people.
For a lot of people, yeah. And if you have a hospital stay coming up, that's not a great place to be. If you have a child who has a hospital stay coming up, that's a terrifying place to be, is if they're so afraid that now we have this extra layer or potentially diagnostic layer of PTSD, which could really keep them from healing. We need all of our resources together when we go to the hospital to be able to heal, not to spend it being terrified.
Yeah. What do you recommend?
Well, there are a number of things. And first of all, I would say, especially if you're, let me just speak about children for a second, because they're a special group and special in my heart. But books have been written forever, and I used to be a children's librarian, so I know this. I went to the library this morning. This is from Millinof-Shock in Mount Joy, Millinof-Shock Library. But there are lots of books that are out there that have familiar characters that children will know, and they can be reassuring for parents to read with their kids. Just go to the library and get out a free book. There are also books that actually help people, adults, who don't really know what happens in a library, in a hospital. And this could help them to focus on why they're there. We're there to get better. We're there because people we know are specialists in what we need, and that's why we're going. If we stay focused on what we really need to get out of our hospital stay, that will help us be in a better frame of mind.
And also, just people hearing this on the news, all of this kind of thing can be traumatizing.
Yeah, absolutely. Many people get stuck in that feeling of fear. And in order to get unstuck or not get in there in the first place, I have a couple of recommendations. One thought is, don't get angry with me for this one, but don't listen to the media all the time with the same story over and over again. If there's new news, absolutely you want to hear it. But to listen to the same news over and over again is just feeding fear. So do something else instead. When you see that segment is coming on, go for a little walk around your house or around the block. Do something fun. Change it up. Get your mind off something scary and put it on something that feels good. If you know that you have to be going to the hospital or even the doctor's office, and this is bringing up fear for you, talk to somebody who's recently had a doctor's appointment and everything went well, or someone who's recently been in the hospital and they're fine. Help to put your mind in the right place. So instead of a fear space, go to a healing place.
And don't be afraid to talk about it. Thank you so much.
Don't be afraid. My pleasure.
There are fundraisers happening for Officer Duarte's family. There's a list at WGAL.com. Thank you for joining us for WGAL 8 in Focus. For all of us at WGAL, I'm Susan Shapiro. And join us again next Saturday night at 7 o'clock for WGAL 8 in Focus, right after NBC Nightly News. And you can watch each episode of In Focus, plus WGAL's latest newscasts, original programming, and more. Just download the Very Local app and stream for free on Roku and Amazon Fire TV.